And we're away, heading north again. There's fog forecast for later on today, so I'm gonna try and get as far north as I can. Not sure how far that will actually be, but we'll see. Weaving between the little islands. Anchorage last night wasn't great. A thunderstorm came through at 2 AM and the wind was gusting up to 65 knots and the anchor did drag a little bit. Okay, I better make sure I avoid that rock there. And then there's the lobster pots. Ideally placed right in the centre of the channel, of course. And there go my anchorage buddies, motoring to their next destination. They motored all the way here yesterday, despite the fact that it was blowing 16 knots later in the day. This scenery is just epic. We're managing about 1 to 1.5 knots. There's almost no wind. However, at the speed we're going, we will reach the next anchorage up sometime this afternoon. Hopefully before the fog arrives. It's supposed to get foggy later. Now this is sailing in company. Got 3 miles left to go. At 1.5 knots is another 2 hours, but I don't believe that for a second. We've been going for, how long have we been going for now? 4 hours. Been going for 4 hours and we've done about 3 miles. Hello fella. But let's see, could be the breeze is picking up. We might be there in a couple of hours. Just as we get a mile from the loch, there's some wind. Not much, 5 knots, but we're doing 2.5 knots now. And I think I just felt rain. Lovely. That's where we're going up there. And that's where it came from, 5 miles away. It's now 2:30 in the afternoon. We've done 5 miles. And here we are at our destination, Loch. After a wonderful night's sleep here, extremely calm, no wind whatsoever, I was hoping to get going this afternoon because it looks like there's going to be wind overnight tonight and then no wind again after that. But I've woken up this morning to find that the Met Office have issued a thunderstorm yellow alert for Scotland and most of the UK, to be honest. So I've decided the safer option would be to stay here, where there are lots of things around that are taller than the mast, and I'll just have to make a slower passage in the next few days. It is what it is. Weather will be weather. It's not always totally predictable, but fingers crossed the thunderstorms pass tomorrow and I can get going. In the meantime, I've moved the anchor, so when I came in here yesterday expecting the wind to turn round to the northeast. It didn't. I'd set the anchor so that I would be closer in towards the shore. Still had plenty of room to swing on the anchor and not hit anything, but what I've done is I've moved it out into deeper water, so I'm now anchored in about 12 meters at low tide, so 16 meters at high tide, and I've got lots of room to swing around now, so I won't need to worry in the night if things do blow up because of a thunderstorm. And the anchor is really well set. 60 meters of chain out. I won't be going anywhere. What that does mean is I can spend the day working. Today the thunderstorms are forecast to be further south, so making a dash for the Cape. Well, looking at the conditions, might not be so much of a dash. Bumble might be a more appropriate word, but it's going to be like this for a few days, so worst case scenario, I just spend a few days out at sea. If I'm going slowly, I don't really have a problem with it. I can take slightly longer rests and can carry on as normal as if I was on anchor, which is what I did on the way into the Loch. Well, I didn't expect that. I've just had to put a reef in both sails. The forecast was 2 to 4. We've got force 5 out here. The rule of thumb, though, I always add 1 Beaufort to the Met Office forecast, so it's still within the range that I was expecting. Although if you look at the weather models, they say there's going to be no more than 10 knots of wind out here today. Interesting. I wonder where all the wind comes from sometimes. But the good side is it means we're cracking along. We're only doing 5 knots at the moment because I'm still pitching too close to wind, having just put the reefs in. I will bear away by about 5 degrees and we'll pick up speed again, probably to about 6.5 knots given the wind speed. The upside, of course, is that means we're going to make really good progress. We're currently on our westbound tack. Wonder what the wind's doing over the top of Scotland. I bet you it's not what's forecast, because this isn't what's forecast. So reading the Met Office forecast, it said east, veering southeast, 2 to 4. Increase 5 for a time near Orkney. Well, we're nowhere near Orkney, and it's not east or southeast, it's currently northeast. Northeast force 5. Thanks, Met Office. So a little update, it's now force 6. Very glad I put that reef in both sails. if it continues to build, I will very shortly be putting another reef in both. After attempting a tack to see what angle I could get, I'm giving up today. I will be tacking backwards and forwards in strong winds for 15 plus hours just to get to the Cape. So forget that, I'm heading back. Disappointing, but the right decision, I think. The forecast is nothing like what it was supposed to be, and it's just going to be a lot of hard work. Tomorrow, potentially, the wind will be from the direction it's forecast. Who knows? Even if it's lighter. Frustrating. But hey, there's worse places to be stuck, waiting for the wind to change direction. That's the best part. Stopped at the beach over there for a few hours, did a little work, started cooking dinner, spaghetti bolognese bubbling away on the hob at the moment. And here's where we're going, back in here. I do feel, having seen another boat going out just as I was coming in, and then seeing them come back about 3 or 4 hours later, having given up, I don't feel quite so bad. I must admit, it's the first time ever that I've set off on a passage and turned around and come back. That was an experience. Let's chalk that one up as an experience. I'm sure it was the right decision, and fingers crossed we get some better wind. An accurate forecast as well would be good. I was just getting ready to leave for another attempt at going round the Cape until I heard a distant rumble. This thunderstorm is making its way directly towards me, so I'm going to have to stay put for a little bit longer. Hopefully not too long. If I can still make the tide and get around the Cape, that would be great. It feels like someone's trying to tell me something though. Maybe I shouldn't go today. Maybe I should just buy a lottery ticket. As you can see, even at 2 in the morning, it's not dark up here. So long, Loch Clash. I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. Into the mist we go. So we're going from Loch Clash down here around the cape and into Loch I'm going to anchor up down here at the old mine works. And the reason I'm leaving at 2 in the morning is that the tide right now is flowing around and down, and in about an hour it switches and goes the other way, and I need to get to here before the tide turns and goes in full flood in the other direction. So we're leaving at 2 in the morning. We'll catch the tide up, around, and then I head into the loch. Now, when I left yesterday, there were some warning signs that I missed. I was rather foolish, to be honest. I've had to not worry about tidal flows for such a long time now. I've become complacent, and even though before I left I had a look at the charts and the tidal flows, and it said that out here I was going to be in about half a knot of tide when I left, and I was going to be in that half a knot, gradually reducing, so that I'd timed it. I would get up here, obviously planning on having a southeasterly wind, planning on getting up here for when the tide turns to carry me over the top and give me plenty of time to poodle along. Now, when I left, I came out and the wind was from the northeast, so I couldn't make that. The best I could do was that direction. And the warning sign that I missed was that my tack should have been more like that, but it was that way, which would have told me immediately, had I been paying attention, that I'd got an awful lot more than half a knot of tide. So anyway, I went out to about here, and then I tacked. And when I tacked, my tack was bringing me back this way, almost back on myself, which was the other warning sign that I had probably around 2 knots of current flowing down the cape this way. So there was no way I was going to keep tacking backwards and forwards. When I calculated with the tacks how long it was going to take to get to here, I was talking about around 15 hours. So even though I would have had a good tide in the middle of those 15 hours, by the time I got up here I would have had 2 knots of tide going against me. So there you go, pay attention to your course, because it does make a difference. So today I'm timing it so that I get out here around the point here before slack water. So I'll have about an hour going against what should be very little tide, because it'd be close to slack water, going up this way, and then I'll have the full tide pushing me as I come up here over the top and along. But I've got to get to around here no later than 1 PM. So I've had to resign myself to motoring most of the way, because the forecast says there's going to be very little wind, and it's not even giving a wind direction today. It's just saying variable 2 to 4, so it could be from any direction. The likelihood is it's going to be northeast again if I were going to put money on it. So I'm going to motor all the way up to here, see how much time I've got left to get down to here. If I've got plenty of time, I will sail even in light winds. If not, I'll motor the whole way. And I know that goes completely against my own personal philosophy of not motoring everywhere, but I've got to get round the Cape, and the weather is not likely to change much in the next few days. I don't fancy spending a few days here waiting for a wind that's kind, so let's get over the top. And then the next stop would be a passage, I guess, up to Stromness in the Orkneys. I could hop along the coast, but there's very little along here to give any real shelter. It will depend an awful lot on what the wind direction is. So there we go. That's why I'm leaving at 2 o'clock in the blooming morning. It's 4 AM, 6 miles in, sun's just getting ready to come up. The scenery is epic. It's just a shame having to motor along here, really. Would have been lovely to have just pootled along using the current. Speaking of the current, we've got just over half a knot of current going with us now. Hopefully, by the time we get round the Cape, I'll have plenty of time so I can put the sails up and bimble along. Well, if there's some wind, and the wind's not right on the nose, obviously. Well, I guess that means I can officially turn the lights off. So, steaming light off, nav lights off, red light off. Oh, it's better. I don't know if it's just me this morning, but the smell of the sea is so strong, it's visceral. Maybe it's just a thing with being so far north, I don't know. Maybe it's just my senses are a bit more attuned to it this morning. But it's beautiful. 4:45 and we're heading into the fog. Looks like that's the last of the scenery for a while. I just hope there's no evil spirits out there. The fog didn't last long, fortunately. We're about 45 minutes away from the Cape now, just coming up to 5 AM. And just appearing from the fog bank behind me is another yacht, which tells me I've probably got my timings right if someone else is doing it at the same time, as long as they know what they're doing as well, of course. I do love sunrise. I'd actually go as far as to say I prefer sunrise to sunset, although I do love sunset as well. And the sun's in just the wrong position, but there she is, the fearsome and deadly Cape Wrath. Watch out, fellas. And the other side of those rocks there will be starting to approach Loch, which is where I'm going to spend the night. Still not a breath of wind, but that's okay. I had already resigned myself to potentially having to motor the entire way today. We're going around the other side of this little island here. And would you believe it, just as I get here, 7 knots of northeasterly wind.